and welcome to Financial Fitness. I'm Sarah Peterson, your consumer advocate, and I'm here with Jim and Dan Vitu of Vitu Financial Services. Hi, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you.
You too.
Good to see you.
We got a lot to talk about when it comes to retirement planning. I mean, it is a big umbrella under which there are so many little droplets of rain.
Isn't it crazy?
It's crazy. I don't think a lot of people even know where to begin when it comes to that. It's such a daunting topic for most people.
We hear that over and over and over again. Over the years, people come in and they just don't know where to start. They're paralyzed with the amount of information. They're paralyzed with the stuff they have and how does it all fit together. And oh my gosh, should I claim Social Security and what am I doing with this pension? Or I have a 401k, an IRA, I have all this different stuff. What do I do with my home? So our job is to sort of help you organize that, to put it together in an organized fashion to say, okay, when we are finally gonna hang up the spikes and retire, here's how we're going to do it and here's where the money's coming from all the way through. And let's face it, we're all living so much longer. So is it, for a few years or is it for 40 or 50 years? We don't know. So how do we organize that to put you on a path? Because that's really what we're talking about doing, is putting you on a path so that you can have a comfortable, fun retirement. Because we've worked for 40 years or more sometimes, and it's like, oh, okay, well, now I'm gonna cut all the bills and not have any fun and not go anywhere. No, you've worked this hard, so if we have a proper plan, we can have fun and we can do things.
And so many people that I talk to, it is so daunting and people seem to be almost embarrassed that they haven't started yet. And I tell people the first step is just to talk to somebody. Just go in and say, here's my pile of paper that I've been collecting for the past, 30 years. I have no idea what it means. And that's the first step. And there's no need to be embarrassed about that. That is, taking care of yourself by having that conversation.
And I've heard stories, I've heard from other financial advisors, like sort of horror stories about, clients coming and maybe they're so embarrassed or they're so proud in some way that they don't necessarily lay all their financial cards on the table. And you have to be completely transparent when it comes to this, because I feel like how can you make an educated plan if you don't have all the pieces in front of you?
That would be like going to the doctor and not telling him everything that's wrong.
Right.
You want to, put your cards on the table, find somebody you trust, and let them in. Let them create the plan for you so that it can work.
But that takes a period of time. When people come into our office, we always say, bring what you're comfortable with. Leave the checkbook at home. It's a conversation. You get to know us some, we get to know you some, and it's a conversation. We're certainly not the fit for everybody.
Especially him.
Thank you very much.
Very difficult.
Yeah, right. So it becomes a conversation, and that's all it's supposed to be, and then we can go from there, and sometimes it's a quick conversation, sometimes it's longer. Oftentimes it's a series of conversations before we really
I should probably let people know that you guys are father-son. You have the same last name.
I'm allowed to say that too.
But they're going to get a feel for this relationship soon enough.
Yes, you will.
Well, I can't imagine. That there's health and there's wealth, right? The most personal things you're dealing with people on a daily basis. And when you go to your doctor, you've got to be transparent about those things. That, like you said, tell them what's wrong. Also, all of your prescriptions that you're taking. You were talking earlier about, having all the pieces of the puzzle. It's like if you were taking all these medications you didn't tell your doctor about, they might interact with one another, right? You're helping people figure all of these parts.
Exactly right. And these are very personal things for people, and we take that very serious. We're fiduciary reps, which is just a fancy way of saying we always act in the best interest of the client. That's just the way we've built our firm, and that's just the way we represent ourselves. We certainly take and act in the best interest of the client. So if you're not comfortable giving us that information initially, I totally understand and I totally respect that. But the more open you can be with us, the more detailed plan we can give you.
And you're right. If you're not telling us everything you have and we create this plan, something you're not telling us about could wind up being a stick in the spokes of that plan.
Absolutely. What if somebody's sitting out there thinking, well, I have my money with XYZ and all we talk about is investments, but they've never talked to me about any of these other pieces?
We're happy to give a second opinion. We're like I said before, we're not the fit for everybody, but we're happy to give a second opinion. There's plenty of good advisors out there that do a very good job, and sometimes the advisor might be reluctant to offer different pieces. I don't know. Every situation's different, and we're happy to give a second opinion if people would like that. That's certainly a fair thing to do, and probably a proper thing to do.
And I like to say that you're allowed to be selfish with your plan. So you might have a great relationship with your advisor, and I'm sure he's a great guy or gal, and that's awesome, and we respect that. But you also need to make sure that your plan is set for you, and that it's the right plan for you, because at the end of the day, it's your perfect path. It's your retirement.
Well, and I've heard, you've heard that whole set it and forget it thing.
Fall
It
asleep to
brings
those
it in your mind.
infomercials, yeah.
I just dated myself too, but it's not a set it and forget it, right? Because life is constantly changing, so you're going to have to adapt that plan.
I think this past year has shown all of us that life is always changing. This has been a crazy past year, and now we're into 2021, and how are things going to go? We don't know. Well, often that's just the case with just the financial picture, is things are going to come up. How are we going to handle healthcare issues? When do we take distributions? How do we take distributions? Again, it's all about just getting you organized for the best way for you to go, because it's not a set it and forget it. It's a constant maintenance thing. So we're there with you. I like to say you become sort of part of the family. So
I can only imagine how intimately you have to work with your clients, and you get attached. You get these
without
relationships.
question. Yeah.
You get to
friends.
really know people. So explain to the viewers out there, when they call, what is it that you're offering today?
So for the first 10 people that call, we're going to put together that complimentary comprehensive retirement plan. So we're going to take everything they've got. Like I said, if they have a plan, great, we'll start there. If they don't have a plan, we'll just start with those statements that they have. We'll weave those together with Social Security, with things like being tax efficient, and with Medicare, and basically follow that financial retirement path forward so that they can kind of forget about that, and they can kind of go on and have fun in their retirement. After all, that's what it's about, right? So that number is 866-356-8889.
You're making me want to retire because I want to have fun. When we get back, we're going to talk more about Medicare because we haven't touched on that yet. 866-356-8889. We'll be right back.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have, by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hello and welcome back to Financial Fitness. I'm Sarah Peterson, and I'm here with Jim and Dan Vittu of Vittu Financial Services. And I'm just thinking about this whole fitness concept. It's making me giggle because we talked about being financially fit. A lot of people wouldn't put those two words together, but there is a fitness to it.
Sure.
Yeah, it's kind of goes back to physical fitness. It's you got to work out consistently in order to stay consistently fit. So, just like that, maybe not as much, which is nice with finances. It's something that you should tend to, pretty routinely. Maybe not every day, like some people might like to work out, but, pretty consistently take
Sometimes
a look.
it's hard getting to the gym,
right.
but afterwards you feel so
We
good.
won't make you work out at our office, I promise you that.
As long as there's coffee, I'm in.
Yeah,
We can help
exactly.
with that, yeah.
So before break, we were talking about Medicare, and it kind of got me also thinking about Social Security, and that's a big piece of this puzzle we haven't really discussed. And I don't think a lot of people realize how important it is in their retirement plan.
Yeah, so Social Security turns out to be the pillar for a lot of people's retirement. So for the vast majority of Americans, that's their biggest asset. They're going to pull more money out of the Social Security system than they have saved. So that's a good cornerstone to a retirement plan, but guys like us don't get paid to talk about that. So it's not very prominent in these circles. So, but again, with our plans, we kind of make that woven in with their other assets so that it can be used as that pillar for income.
I've seen that, Social Security laws book of 2020, and it was this big,
Huge.
sitting on the table, and I thought, I know that most people sitting out there are not going to be wanting to read this, nor do they have time to read it or desire, and it's so good to know that there's people like you that are professional that are keeping up, and there's just so many changes.
Oh, there's constant changes in all aspects of it, but Social Security planning is such a critical piece for so many people, as Dan said. Basically half of us Americans who are qualified at age 62 just start the benefit. Maybe that makes sense, maybe that doesn't make sense, but they should at least know what other options are available, and if they are going to delay it, well, here's the positive and negative side of it. If they're going to start it early, here's the positive and negative side. So it really does take a little bit of planning, and that's one of the things that we walk you through is, giving you the information to say, okay, here's what your options are. This is how it might impact things, not only now, but in the future, because that's really what we're talking about doing is how are we going to get down that path, that retirement path that could be over a number of decades.
How much does budgeting play into this, in this general plan that you create for people?
We can usually tell which plans are going to be the easiest to prepare based on, some people will bring in an Excel spreadsheet and it'll have every expense they have. Others will say, I don't know, $4,000, something like that. Those are a little bit more difficult to plan for. So we can't really tell you if you have enough money if we don't know how much you're spending. So that's one of the biggest things we start with is, okay, what are you spending? And we give them a sheet. We say, okay, it's broken down, into the minutia, so cell phones, pets, all that kind of thing. Just to add it up, just to get a number so we have somewhere to start.
Right, and it's often an uncomfortable conversation for some people because they don't want to know what they spend on a monthly basis. But, as things have gone on, it's 2021, it's hard not to spend money on things that maybe 20 years ago you weren't spending money on, a cell phone and cable TV and streaming
has just gotten
service.
A lot more expensive.
Right, things have gotten more expensive. Inflation is factored in there. So it's really having that conversation. We're not telling you how to spend your money, but it's important to know where you're spending your money. So
well, and nowhere on your statements does it say, okay, you made $100 and you should spend $20 on your rent. Right. You should spend. Nobody does that, and so we get all these educations, and nobody's telling you this is how much you should save, this is how much you should spend, and it becomes so daunting, we just don't deal with it until maybe it's too late.
Right, and Dan touched on it before. Ideally, people will start building their retirement plan, 3 to 5 or longer years out, but sometimes people come in and it's Wednesday and I'm quitting. Yeah, and I'm done next week. And that is more of a fire drill, as I like to say. But it's all about giving you more time to prepare. So we go through that sort of budget analogy, and then it's up to you guys to sort of go through your budget to say this should stay or go, or not stay or go. And then we can come and get you back on that path with those tools.
Especially because in retirement, we typically see that budget fluctuate. Those first few years, you're spending more, you're traveling more. Hopefully with your spouse, or something like that. But right.
Or whomever.
Right. But then it'll kind of settle down, and you kind of find your niche, and this is kind of the status quo for how much you're going to spend. And as long as you know that number and have some visibility towards that, you can plan around it.
Well, I've seen, firsthand that sort of depression mentality. I remember my grandfather always said, the only thing he wanted to spend on was family trips. So we would take these beautiful family trips, all the cousins, everybody. He would spare no expense on that, but he would not buy himself that Lexus. He just wouldn't do it. And we would say, Grandpa, you're doing good. You've made money. You're okay. You can buy. It's just that I may not have it, and saving and not enjoying. And it would be nice to know, hey, those things that I have been holding off on, I can enjoy those things.
Right. And part of the conversation is to find out what your goals are. Like, that's wonderful that your grandpa wanted to take family trips, and that's fine. Maybe he wasn't the kind of guy that wanted to drive a Lexus. That's totally fine. So each plan is individualized because Not everybody's the same. You know, your grandpa who wanted to take the family trips, that's wonderful. So that would be one of those things you would build into the plan, like how do we accommodate that on an annual or biannual or however often time frame you want to take that kind of trip. That's a super goal, but it's whatever your goals are. So maybe maybe you're the kind of person that wants to have the Lexus. Okay, well, is that conceivable? Is that realistic to have that in a plan? And we just show you the numbers.
I would take both.
If
I could have both,
I was thinking the same thing.
I would take both.
Well, I think it's great to talk about planning for fun, because those are supposed to be the golden years, right? And we're constantly talking about planning for Social Security, planning for pensions, planning for long-term care, and those are obviously things we need to talk about. But there's got to be a budget in there for planning for fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you spend all that time working, right? I mean, you can leave the number stuff to us. As long as you tell us what you're spending, we can say, okay, we'll do the nerdy things in the background and say, okay, you go out and have fun.
I would like to plan for a trip to Hawaii. Can we work on that? If you're listening, you know who you are. No, I think it's really important for people to understand that there is, with proper planning, that's where you can find the room for those things.
Right, exactly. That's the idea, is to give you the plan, to give you the organized ability to say, okay, we're going along and everything's fine, because let's face it, the market isn't always going to cooperate with us. So how do you adjust for that? And things will come up over our path. So if we have one built that is, we sort of maybe veer off course a little bit, we can just make minor adjustments to get back on track versus, boy, we misspent for the last decade. Boy, now what do we do? Well, now that becomes a not pleasant conversation for any of us, but it has to be said that, okay, well, maybe we need to make some more radical adjustments. Maybe we have to sell things that we didn't want to do. Maybe we have to eliminate the family trips, that kind of stuff. So it's all about, if we plan it properly and we always attend to it, then there's no reason why we can't have fun in retirement.
I want to have some fun. Let's talk about it. Well, I'd love for the viewers that are just listening in to find out what it is that you're offering today.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of, as he was talking about that comprehensive plan, to plan for fun, we're going to create that for the first 10 callers that call in. So we're going to do a complimentary comprehensive plan that's basically going to take where they are from a financial standpoint and kind of send them into their golden years. So it's going to include all their assets, where they stand from a financial standpoint. It's going to do Social Security, Medicare, tax efficiency, all the stuff that you don't want to deal with, we will deal with and send you on your way.
I love that about you.
So again, that number is 866-356-8889.
Let them deal with all the things you don't want to deal with so you can take that trip to Hawaii. After the break, we're going to talk about a few more viewer questions and get a better idea of how to plan for your retirement.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Hello and welcome back to Financial Fitness. I'm Sarah Peterson, your consumer advocate, and I'm here with Jim and Dan Vitu of Vitu Financial Services, and they're trying to help me plan my next trip to Hawaii. And that's exactly what we're talking about, is planning for the golden years and being able to know that after we've worked so hard in our life that there's still fun at the end and we can still enjoy that money with proper planning.
Right.
Yeah, we want all of our clients to have financial freedom. And by that, we don't mean that you have, $8 billion in the bank. We want that to mean that they're not worried about where their money's coming from, that they're confident in their plan and they know that they're going to be able to have fun in their retirement.
Freedom is a hot button topic right now with new administrations and lots of change. And I know earlier we briefly touched on market volatility, but I'd love to touch on that because I think a lot of people, there is just so much uncertainty, right? And even if you had a crystal ball, it probably would be wrong at this point. So how do we account for that?
Well, so that's part of the process that you have to go through. So we look at the retirement planning picture in sort of 3 phases. So we have that accumulation phase. So it's our younger years and our working years and maybe our maximum earning years. And we're putting away money, and we can look at risk in a certain way to say, okay, we can be more aggressive, or we can, take more chances, I guess you'd want to say. We still build a comfortable portfolio, but you can maybe be more aggressive in your thinking. As you get, say, within 3 to 5 years of retirement, though, maybe we want to start backing off some of that risk, because now we're sort of trying to protect more than we are trying to make these giant climbs, hopefully. That's not always the case. Some of us, haven't saved enough, and maybe that's not the case. But it's looked at on a case-by-case basis. And then the third stage is the distribution stage. How are we taking money out? Because that's the money we've accumulated, and we got to make sure that lasts the rest of our lives. So again, we want to sort of position that market volatility in a way to make sure that we don't have those great big declines, and we don't have a huge correction in that portfolio.
And you talk about accumulation versus distribution, and we were talking earlier about how the longer you live, the longer that distribution phase becomes if you retire at whatever age you think you're going to retire. So then we stay healthy, and maybe we decide, okay, I can work a little bit longer because I really want to live till 95, and I really don't want to get to that position where I run out of money, or I can't do the things and enjoy my life the way that I want to.
Right, and the decumulation phase, as we call it, that's equally as important as that accumulation plan. So, you have a plan, I'm going to put away a certain amount of money for X amount of years, and it's going to equal this amount of money given certain assumptions. That's great, and a lot of people know how to do that on their own. The decumulation phase is a little bit different, and that's basically where are we taking this, and how is it going to last until we're 95 or 100 years old, and that equally as important, but not as many people do it. So that's what we're looking to provide to people.
It's interesting because if I speak to my parents and their expectations of life, I see that they are wanting less just because they want less responsibility, less things to take care of, less maintenance on a home. And we do naturally sort of want less and less so that we can feel more free, like you said, and enjoy our lives.
Yeah, and a lot of people, that is the case, but some people want more. Some people decide that once they retire, that's when they're really going to start spending, and they buy the second home and things like that. And that's great. And if we can work that into the plan, great. But it's important that you have those conversations before you just go out and do it.
And go to Hawaii.
Right.
Right. We were talking earlier about risk, and maybe the amount of risk that we're willing to take, it changes through our lifetime and maybe changes closer to retirement.
Sure. Everybody's risk tolerance is different. So these plans, these retirement plans that we come up with are specific to those people. But we also know that, how you're thinking at 40 and 50 and 65 are going to be different phases. So how do you adjust that plan? It can't just be the set it and forget it mentality.
Yeah.
It's the, how have our lives changed, and how are we, decomplicating things in our lives, or maybe we're okay with things. Everybody's different. So everybody's plan is going to be slightly different. So it's not a cookie cutter approach like we've seen before, but it's just something that you can come in, and we're happy to have the conversation and figure out what your goals are. Figure out if we can accomplish them. And sometimes we have to have that little bit harder conversation to say, well, we don't really have the ability to do that, and you should have that information. Exactly.
So
it's
sad.
not necessarily comfortable, but you need to have the
Rather
information.
somebody tell you now and be able to plan for it.
Right.
Then it's not as much of a shock.
What about, thinking about our legacies and leaving something to them? That's so important to a lot of people. And I mean, you've got father and son duo
Right.
here, and you've got 4 sons. I'm sure that some of your clients come to you and ask, well, what would you do? How are you planning for your family?
Oh, sure. There's lots of ways to accomplish that legacy planning, and that fits into a lot of people's thinking. So a lot of people want to have enough to live a comfortable retirement, but they also want to leave something to their children or grandchildren, or maybe provide educational opportunities for them. So how can that fit into a retirement plan? And that's looked at. And again, that changes over time. So.
And that's typically the 1A and 1B of retirement is, do I have enough, and how do I leave some to my family? Because we've all unfortunately seen the circumstance where somebody passes away tragically and suddenly and leaves nothing. So that planning is just kind of peace of mind, knowing that if you were to leave, then your family's taken care of.
which is just really something that for a lot of people would give them tremendous, peace of mind. I had someone say the other day, if you have, the more children that you have, the likelihood that one of them is going to need assistance at some point in time. Maybe they'll all be okay, but that one, wouldn't it be nice to be able to plan for the what ifs, and hopefully it doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plan for the
Kind of
worst,
plan for the
hopefully.
unplanned. Yeah.
So let's let the viewers know, if they call 866-356-8889, you have something that you're offering that's completely complimentary, and I really want to make sure you explain it.
Yeah, so we're going to give them that complimentary comprehensive retirement plan. So a lot of plans will just say, okay, these are what your assets add up to, and here's where you stand. We're going to kind of go one step further, and we're going to put that together with Social Security and basically how those RMDs that we touched on, how basically the entire plan, living out to 95 or 100. So with Social Security, with Medicare, with tax efficiencies, basically, like we said, all the things that nobody wants to deal with, that it's our job to deal with, we're going to put that together. And we're going to provide that to the first 10 callers. Again, that number, 866-356-8889.
And even if it's not fun in their mind, and maybe the process, maybe not, but at the end of it, they'll have somebody who's taking care of all the things they don't want to deal with, and they can maybe take that trip to Hawaii after all, which I think is the ultimate goal. And I think I have that on my mind today.
And that's what's so fun about our job, is that we get, we do all this stuff, and it's important and it's serious, but at the end of the day, once the plan's in place, then it's just the conversation of, catching up with them and saying, okay, how's everything going? What have you been doing with your time? What have you been doing with your retirement? And knowing that the backbone of that, financial situation is solid.
I think what's also important to remember is that what you said before, when they come to see you, who you are is who you are. You guys are so comfortable to talk to work with, and there's no risk here. They're just literally picking up their phone, making the phone call.
Exactly. So you can come in and as I say, bring whatever you're comfortable bringing.
Not their checkbook.
Not their checkbook. Always leave that at home. But the idea is just to have a conversation, to try to get a gauge for, okay, this is what you'd like to do. These are our goals, and these are our aspirations, and here's where we are, so we can start bringing it together. And then maybe the conversation gets a little more detailed, but that's entirely up to them. It's no pressure to act in any kind of certain way other than just be willing to have a conversation with us.
So if you're sitting on the couch and you have your phone near you, which I know you do, all you need to do is pick it up and dial. You've earned it, you deserve it. And all of this is a conversation, which I love, because even if it's just for the education, which to me is priceless, I can't believe these are things that we don't talk about in school. And if you don't have a professional working for you, then there's really no one looking out for you. So this is necessary for anyone, really.
Yeah, and come in, we can have some fun, get to know each other. It's a good time.
As long as there's coffee, like I said.
Right, yes.
Well, next time we'll hit on all the other topics, I hope, but we're running out of time, so we will see you soon.